Hello. All right, everybody, thank you all for coming. As everybody knows, we've been in the Navy pipeline for going on 2 years now. We joined this venture because retaining people, onboarding, and finding good talent is extremely hard in today's society. So when the Navy reached out to us, we said, yeah, we'll definitely be part of your program. So after a year and a half into this program and us learning different techniques and tips on how to retain and onboard people, hopefully you guys have seen a difference in management style, leadership style, supervision style, one-on-ones, trying to get to know people a little more, trying to get that relationship building, one-on-ones with your team members. And when we go to these seminars every quarter, somebody like Command Master Chief talks. And for a lot of you guys in here, I always say you need a why to what you're doing, okay? You need a purpose. What is the why? And these guys, when they explain why manufacturing is so important, why the Navy is so important to our country, to all of us in this room, I asked these guys, could you please come out here and talk to the group? Because to hear it from me is one thing. To hear it from Command Master Chief is something different. And the facts that he says and the information that he has is kind of mind-blowing on where we're at compared to different countries in the world and where they're at. So I'd like to turn the microphone, Command Master Chief Hiscocks. Please give him a warm welcome.
Good morning, thank you. My name is Command Master Chief Jeff Hiscocks. I really appreciate your hospitality in hosting this morning, giving me a tour of your facilities, kind of seeing everything that you do. So I've been in the Navy for 24 years. This is my 24th year. I work for, it's called Team Submarine, and we're based out of the Washington Navy Yard out in DC. And Team Submarine makes up 4 different components inside the submarine world, if you will. But our job, overall, hey, what do you do? Our job is to design, acquire, maintain, and modernize the entire Navy submarine fleet. So when you think about that, it's kind of a daunting task, right? Everything from designing the new submarines that we're building to going to Congress, getting the funding to go pay for, building it, assembling it. All of that money funnels down into the supply chain for all of the companies that contribute to it, and then maintain and modernize our current fleet. So inside Team Submarine, there's 4 organizations. We have our strategic submarine program, our SSBN program. So if you're thinking about, this is our fleet ballistic missile submarines. These are very large, carry nuclear weapons, part of the triad that carries the nuclear weapons, that is a political deterrent for any other countries. Inside that program, we also have the sustainment for the current SSBNs that are out there operating. Those operate in bases in Kings Bay, Georgia, and Bangor, Washington. And then they provide what we call the nuclear coverage for the nation. That is our second strike capability while they're out and they're submerged. Additionally, we're building the new Columbia-class submarine. So those Ohio-class submarines that are operating right now, when we designed them, we said, hey, these submarines are going to operate for approximately 40 years. Their life cycle is going to be 40 years. Right now, we're going on year 43 on some of our oldest submarines. So we're already well past our life cycle, and we have to get a replacement submarine in to continue that strategic nuclear deterrent. So we're building the new fleet ballistic missile submarine, and we're maintaining the current fleet ballistic missile submarine. Also inside that program is what we call the submarine industrial base. Submarine industrial base is pretty self-explanatory, right? It's everything that encompasses building and maintaining submarines. When you think about how many companies contribute to a gadget, a widget, a circuit board, you name it, there's over 16,000 companies across America that contribute to building an entire submarine. So the submarine industrial base, maintaining that making sure that companies like Schroeder has what they need to provide us the quality parts we need. That's part of that job. Then a second program office is our fast attack submarine office. So these are our Virginia classes, our Los Angeles class, and our Seawolf class submarines. So we're currently building Virginia classes right now. We have been for about 15, 16 years, and we're still operating a handful of Los Angeles class attack submarines, and there's 3 Seawolf attack submarines. These submarines go out and do missions vital to national security. Think about clandestine missions, deploying, retrieving special operation forces, doing a lot of surveillance, things like that. So they operate out of ports all over the world. So that program builds those submarines and maintains those submarines. You've got the Fleet Ballistic Missile Submarines that builds and maintains those submarines. Your third office is Undersea Warfare Systems, UWS. The UWS program basically manages and maintains all of our combat systems that are employed on a submarine. So think, these are kind of your digital nerds, if you will. They maintain all of that combat system and anything that really can be used as a weapon out of a submarine. So they manage our torpedoes, they build our torpedoes, they maintain the inventory. Any additional weaponry that comes off of a submarine is under the Undersea Warfare program. And then the fourth program is the AUKUS program. This is our, it's been a year now, and I think this week is the anniversary that President Biden announced the AUKUS trilateral agreement between Australia, the United Kingdom, and the U.S., where we are going to help Australia stand up their own submarine service. They have a submarine service now. They operate diesel-electric submarines, and they're going to convert from diesel-electric to nuclear-powered submarines. So they've enlisted the help from the UK and the United States, because we've been operating nuclear submarines for many, many years. We're going to help Australia transfer some of that technology and help them stand up their own ability to operate those submarines and also build them out of Australia. So it's kind of a win-win for us, because we get to help a nation stand up a submarine construction program, but also while we stand up that submarine construction program, we can leverage some of the companies that are over there as well, helping bolster our current submarine building program here. So if we go back to the submarine industrial base, one of the goals that we have over the next 30 years as we look at where our nation is right now and where our nation needs to be with regards to national security and what role the submarines play in that, we know that we need to build new submarines. We know that we need to replace an aging fleet of ballistic missile submarines. And we also know that we need to bolster the industrial base that provides all those pieces, parts, components to the prime builders that we have in Groton and Newport News down in Virginia. So in order to do that, we looked at what is it going to take and what kind of cadence do we need to be to meet the end state of where the number of ships that we want. So we said in 2028, we want to be able to be building 1 Columbia class, which is our new ballistic missile submarine, and 2 Virginia classes per year. So you'll hear, if you pay attention to the news, you pay attention to defense industry news, you'll hear the term 1+2 plus sustainment in 28. That's our goal, right? 1 Columbia class, 2 Virginia classes, maintain our current fleet the way it is by 2028. And we want to maintain that cadence for about 25 years, right? In order to do that, across the submarine industrial base, we need to hire about 10,000 people per year for the next 10 to 15 years. So think about those numbers, right? Think about, where does all that kind of filter across? That filters across companies like yours, right? Any company across the nation that contributes to building these submarines, these are where we need this workforce to go into. So the Navy stood up the submarine industrial base program and said, hey, we have to go out and we have to figure out how can we achieve this goal and how can we get these companies to that goal. And there's really five levers that we're working across to try to achieve that, right? The first one is workforce, right? And that's with programs like the Navy Talent Pipeline that Schroeder's been involved in for a while now. If the companies that provide us parts and components can't recruit, they can't onboard, they can't hire, they can't retain good employees, then it's going to be a struggle to achieve the goals that we need. So the Navy said, hey, it's important that we go out and we invest in programs that help companies bring people in, help them build a culture, help them build an environment where the job has purpose, people want to stay there, the company becomes like a family, and the products that they produce are quality. So that's one of the big reasons is workforce development. And we have investments all over the country that are trying to bolster workforce development, trying to improve people joining the trades. For years and years and years, we kind of said, hey, send your kids to college. College is important. And we kind of lost our tradespeople. We need to get back to our tradespeople. We need to get back to helping people understand that a job in the trades is a well-paying, it's a family-sustaining wage job for years to come, and there's not going to be any shortage of work as we move forward. The other 4 areas that we need to improve on to meet those goals are shipbuilding infrastructure, strategic outsourcing, and additive manufacturing, what we call advanced technology. So as we look across, we have basically 2 prime shipbuilders in the country that build our submarines for us. Electric Boat up in Groton and Huntington Ingalls Newport News down in Norfolk. Those 2 companies are basically assembling the submarines. So we need to figure out how can we gain more capacity, how can we gain more efficiency in order to achieve what we want to achieve. And one of it is shipbuilding infrastructure, right? Going to those companies and saying, hey, what do you need in order to work faster or work more efficiently? If you think about like a car manufacturing plant or relate it to even your shop floor, when you want to bring in a new product like your tanks, you had to clear some floor space and you had to bring in some new equipment. As we build a new submarine, a larger diameter submarine that we haven't built in some years for the Fleet Ballistic Missile Submarine, we kind of got to clear some space for the supplier, for the shipyard. And so we kind of got to retool their assembly line, if you will. And in order to do that, we still want to continue building our other Virginia-class ships. So we have to outsource, right? Strategic outsourcing. In order to outsource some of our shipbuilding, our submarine building, we have to go out to larger companies and say, hey, can you build this product? And then once it's built, can we deliver it back to the prime vendor and they can put it together? So we're outsourcing a lot of man hours from the assembly area where they used to do everything and all the components came to them. We're outsourcing it to different companies across the country in order to gain some capacity and efficiency back at those main yards. And then the additive manufacturing piece, or the manufacturing technology. For years, this country's been pretty consistent on large components. We do castings and forgings, right? We do castings and forgings. So you get raw material, you do castings and forgings. Once those are done, you do some testing, make sure your non-destructive testing is good. Then they go out to the machine shops, they get machined, and they get delivered to the end user who puts the components in, then it goes to the submarine. The timeline for that is taking an absolutely incredible amount of time. And with the continued developed technology in additive manufacturing and what we, 3D printing, as a Navy, we're asking ourselves, why can't we start printing some of these parts rather than a casting or a forging? So there's a lot of development right now going into what can we do, what opportunities can we take advantage of with regards to 3D printing, and how does that work inside a submarine, right? Our safety record in the U.S. Submarine Service is pretty spectacular, and that's because of our quality control. So as we bring in 3D printing and additive manufacturing, adding that into our quality program takes a little bit of timing and a lot of testing to make sure that we're going to maintain that same quality standard that we have for many, many years. But for example, when you talk about we want to build things faster, we want to have opportunities faster, like I said earlier, some of our ships have exceeded their lifespan. They're still operating and they're still in good condition. But when you design a ship 35 years ago, or 65 years ago, some of the companies that made the parts for that ship are no longer in business. When you design a submarine, you design for the life cycle and you say, hey, over the course of this submarine's life, it's going to use X number of valves, it's going to use X number of filters, it's going to use X number of parts, and you plan that out. Some of those companies don't exist and we have parts obsolescence issues, right? We have a ship that's well beyond its lifespan, but we need a replacement part and nobody makes it. And we say, hey, we still have the prints, we need to go make this, And it might be 18 months, it might be 2 years that a company says, hey, it's going to take this long to replace that part. That's where the additive manufacturing piece comes into play. We took a part several months ago that they said it was going to take 18 months to make the valve. We reverse engineered it, and then we 3D printed it in about 3 weeks and then put it on the submarine. So when you look at innovative opportunities like that to kind of shorten the supply line, it makes a big difference. So that's kind of in a very quick nutshell what we do at the Navy Yard at Team Submarine, right? Everything that goes on in the submarine force, from modernizations to new equipment to designing to helping fund, all of that kind of flows through those 4 offices, and it's a pretty incredible job. The awesome part about it is we get out and we get to travel and we get to see vendors like yourself all over the country on a pretty routine basis. And what we find is, as we get out here, we don't do a very good job as the military in uniform getting on the shop floor, talking to employees, and really just expressing our thanks for what you do, right? What you do and the importance that it plays in national security, right? I can take any part out there that you make that goes into a military component, and I can relay to you how through several steps it plays a role in national security or the geopolitical situation in the world. So when you come to work day in, day out, whatever shift you're on, I know that sometimes you're having a bad day. Sometimes your brain's just not in it. Sometimes you're tired. Maybe you're tired of watching Pittsburgh lose in the playoffs or not making the playoffs. I don't know. I'm a Bears fan, so I understand that completely. I do question your Russell Wilson acquisition. I don't know. Anyway, we really want your head to be engaged in what you're doing, right? The quality that comes out of places like this all over the country are what allow us to do our job. So, like I said, I've been in the Navy for 24 years. I've operated on submarines for a long time. I'm a mechanic on the submarine. My job is anything that's not nuclear but mechanical. That's what I take care of. Prior to the Navy, I was a machinist. I worked for a company that made parts for John Deere out of the Midwest. I grew up and I cut my teeth on a mill and a lathe. I started by sharpening tools that went into the lathe. That was my first job, and then I ended up getting to the point where I could program a CNC and actually run a cycle and run some parts. So for me, getting out here and seeing some of these shop floors is also, I'm passionate about it and I enjoy doing it. But the quality, right? The importance of your job. As we're out there operating on the submarine, or depending on what your product is, the end use is, right? Whether it's aircraft carrier, ship, whatever. The person in uniform, there's never a time where we're operating and we go to operate a valve or push a button or whatever we're about to do and we say, gosh, I sure hope whoever was at Schroeder that day knew what the hell they were doing and made a good part. We take that for granted, right? As a military, as the operators, we take it for granted every day. But we go out and we operate and we do what we need to do. And in the submarine force, our quality is what defines us, right? And we appreciate that. And it's not very often that we get to come out and say, hey, thank you for what you do. And it is important. It is important that we have the ability to focus on our job and not worry about, is this valve going to operate? Is this switch going to operate? When I push this button and I need more propulsion, or when I pull this lever, I want to be able to launch a torpedo, or whatever it may be. We don't question it. And that comes from you. And so when you think about, what's my job worth? Well, it's worth a lot, right? You're contributing to national security every single day with the cross-section of where all of your components are operating in the military. You're contributing to national security every day. And think about that when you come to work. And think about that when you're referring somebody else to come work at this company, right? Being in the military, I know a lot about building winning teams, I've been on some bad teams, but I've been pretty lucky and been on some really, really good leadership teams. When you are in a culture that is positive and good, everybody knows what the purpose of their job is and what their worth is. You can't replace that with anything else. The culture becomes contagious, right? Culture becomes, it spreads through the company when you're happy, when you enjoy your work, when everybody's supportive, when your leadership is supportive. You can't replicate that anywhere else. And you guys have a really good culture here at Schroeder. And so just be thankful for that. We're thankful for that because we know it produces great products. Appreciate your time. Appreciate what you do on a day-to-day basis. I know that you have a ton of distractions every day that life throws at you, but yet you still come in here, you do the job, and you make quality parts, and that allows us to not think about that and do our job. So we appreciate that. So thank you again for your time. You've got a great facility here. It's awesome to see that you're growing into more, and we'd like to see that as well, right? Thank you. Appreciate your time.